come from the Windy City. Some people call it Chi-Town. Some people call it Chicago. Some call it Gangster Town. And the Windy City got its name not because of the wind coming off the lake. It was because the politicians were blowing so much hot air, so they call it the Windy City. Gerald came, and his passion is to ride bikes. So we had a person that was in our club also liked to ride a bike, but Gerald did not want to compete with him, so Gerald gave him the wrong time to show up. And I had to put that out there because we're now in competing for racquetball and chess, and he had given me the wrong time. But tonight he's going to give you the right speech. Help me welcome to the lecture, Gerald Crawford.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, and even to the person who might be losing some chess games and racquetball games and that sort of stuff, I'm thankful to have this opportunity to be in front of you. I'd like for you to think back in school, and how many of you can think of some real essential information we learned in school, like the Pythagorean theorem? Does anybody remember the Pythagorean theorem?
Yes.
Did anyone have algebra where 3x plus xyb equals something?
Yes.
Yes.
And my question to you is, how often have you used that information that we spent hours and hours and hours learning back then? A few of you, several of you came up with it. The truth is, we go through school and college learning a lot of information. Some of it has no use or value to us here on this planet as individuals. But we spend hours and hours and hours learning it. But there are some numbers that are even more important to you than 3x plus 2x plus yb or something equals something. Or more important than learning which angle is the same as another angle on the other side because of the way a line went through it. Let's talk about some other numbers. Like, let's say 520, 620, 439, 300, 720. Some of you may or may not have heard of these numbers, but most of you have one regardless if you want one or not. And that's what's called your credit score. You see, no matter who you are, when you get ready to get one of these things called a credit card, a house, going out for dinner, a flight, you may want to use a credit card to pay your bills here. There's somebody who's going to look at everything you do and want to know, what are your three numbers? Now, just so you know, if your credit score happens to be 300, 320, 400, 425, it is not a good thing.
Really?
It is not going to get you where you want to go to life. If by any chance you have a perfect score, and some of you in here may have a credit score of maybe 720. 720 is about what you need to have in order to do what you want to do on this plan. In other words, you can get the credit card, the house, get to lower interest rates, and so forth. Some of you in here may have a 720 or even higher. Many people fall between 600 and 700. And you wonder to yourself sometimes when you go buy things, what is this number? How do they come up with the calculations? How can I make my number better? But first, let me start with some good information you may want to know. You may not believe this, but there is no book or anything that you can go to that will tell you exactly how they calculate these numbers, because they pretty much keep that a secret. However, there are some things you can do for your credit in order to make it better. First, if you don't know what your credit card score, is, you need to check it at least once a year. If you're getting ready to do something like buy a house, a car, or make a significant portion, you may want to check it even twice a year. Why? Because you don't know what somebody has put on your credit bureau, and a lot of times it'll go on there without your knowledge, and you go in, and I may go up to a salesperson here and say, hey, I want to come in here, I see this nice Corvette here, let me put down my credit card and buy this, or let me take out my checkbook. You know, this is a down payment, just run my credit. And then he runs my credit, and he comes back and laughs at me the way he did at the beginning of my introduction, because my credit score is so low I don't know what to do with it. Here's some hints or some things that you can do for your credit in order to make it better. 1, you need to pull it. 2, there's 3 major places, TransUnion, Experience, and TRX, and they don't all necessarily have the same score. You could have a bill that you did not pay, and they may report to TRX and not report to TransUnion, and therefore you'll have a different score here than a different score there. And depending on what you're trying to buy, they may go to one or the other. And believe me, the difference of 20, 30, or 40 points can make a difference if you get something or not, or if you pay higher interest rates. Trust me when I say this, there's a difference if your mortgage is 7% or 13%. Trust me. If your car payment, there's a difference if you're paying 5% or if you're paying 8%. Now, what can you do to make it better? 1, understand it, pull it. 2, they're looking for a mix. One of the things they want to look at in your credit is, do you have a mortgage? At least one. Do you have an installment payment of some type? When I mean installment, are you buying a car? Are you paying something back over time? And 2, do you have 2 or 3 major credit cards? Now let's first start with the mortgage. Most people have mortgage on at least a house or condominium or something. Yes, you can rent, but if you have a mortgage, that's considered a little bit better as far as a credit rating than if you're renting. The other one would be an installment loan. Sometimes when you have a lot of money, you like to pay everything cash. You know, you see this $10,000 car, you just whip out, you know, your checkbook, or you see a few things you want. But if you're smart, you may want to just whip out $5,000 and pay it, even though you could pay it off cash, because what our society is looking for is your ability to pay something over time. So the person who whips up $10,000 cash and then they go get this car and then they go for credit later on is going to be in a worse position than somebody who would have whipped out $5,000 cash, even if they would have paid it off in 3 or 4 months, because it shows that you can pay something over time. Now, as far as credit cards, the credit cards that count are your major bank credit cards. Your Visa, your American Express, MasterCard, Discover. They like to see 2 to 3. Now, if you have one, they're wondering that, gee, maybe you don't have the ability to get any more and you got lucky. If you got 10 to 15, they may wonder if you're going to be able to handle that particular amount of credit out there. Those are things to look at. Also on your credit card, keep your balances at 30%. So if you need $300 worth of credit, it's better to have that credit over 3 credit cards than on 1 credit card that's $300, because they're looking at how much range you have left. But these are just some of the things you can do. Understand the number, understand the mix, and keep your credit as good as possible and up to date, and that will help your credit score go up. Mr. Toastmaster.
On that note, Gerald, I might even spot you 2 points.
Tell everybody to vote.
Once again, another topic that we can definitely learn from. I've learned something tonight from that, Gerald. I appreciate it. So take a minute to give Gerald some comments. Something he can take with him so he can read also. Now, it's time to call my helper. And make sure you vote for the best speaker. We only have 2 speakers that is in contest tonight to win the $1,000. That's Lois and Gerald. And Gerald don't need it, so we'll vote for Lois.
No, you can't just buy it. Rigging.
Now I'm going to call on our main